It's just,
Why is it?
no, it's hasn't changed.
No, we're not videoing this, or not.
Yes, we are.
You are live. You're good.
The mask don't match my shirt.
Switches are up.
Easter man, I'll pay me to wear it.
He says it seems dark up
We ready?
Yeah.
Is it rolling?
It's all a dark road on that side and then this side.
So, Mr. Cook, we have several, and board members, we have several items we want to present tonight. It's our first work session in a while, and if you recall, many times our work sessions are on items related to curriculum, so we have 4 pretty big items tonight we want to go through with you. Kathy Waddell is going to present most of them, and I think Lynette will step in and do the kindergarten registration plan, but this time I want to turn it over to Kathy. Kathy's going to present something on Career and College Ready Graduate Initiative. This is something that's been out there for probably 6 years, right, Kathy? Kind of, the state has pushed it on down the road each year, and we're at the point now where they say we have to do it. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy, let her share what this is about.
Good afternoon, board members. It's good to see all of you tonight. I want to share an update with you on Career and College Ready Initiative. We call it CCRG. CCRG, like Dr. Gaines said, has been floating around for a long time. It's an initiative that was born out of a collaboration between the community college system and the state board. As a result of that collaboration and consultation, the Senate Law 2015-241, which requires the development of a program that introduces college developmental math, reading, and English curriculums during the senior year of high school. High school seniors who are not career and college ready by the end of their junior year will have opportunities for college readiness prior to high school graduation through a cooperative plan that was put together by the community college system and the state board. The full statewide implementation of CCGR is slated to begin this spring. Like Dr. Gainey also said, it's been pushed back several times, and now here we are. It will be deployed by an online system that's called Enrollment Ed Ready. Every high school senior in the state that takes advantage of this opportunity will utilize the same platform for CCRG courses. What the Randolph County school system has done to get ready for this opportunity is that before Kat Berry left, she developed a team of educators to go with her to Winston-Salem to hear about the Enrollment Ed Ready platform. As a result of that, we've developed an implementation plan to meet what the legislative requirement is. We have provided professional development for 12th grade math and English teachers as well as high school counselors with a focus on the career college ready graduate requirements so that they can use the Enrollment Ed Ready system. Attached to the information that you have tonight on CCRG, you have a copy of the letter that we use to inform parents of the legislative requirement and a copy of the exemption criteria that has been provided by the Community College System Board, the State Board, and NCGPI. Are there any questions thus far? So in your packet is a copy of the letter that we sent to parents. And that letter talks about the reason for CCRG, the opportunity that students will be given, what that means in terms of how CCRG will be deployed in the high school through the English 4 and through Math 4 this year. If you are not a student who has access to English 4 in your high school second semester, you will not be required to participate in CCRG this year. The CCRG modules are only offered through an online program. So all of those things are in place in our high schools and ready for students. The last page of this document that you have is the exemption criteria. Students who have an unweighted GPA between 2.2 and 2.799 as high school juniors are required to take CCRG math and English courses in their senior year. An unweighted GPA 2.8 or above signifies that students are career and college ready. As you can see that there's a chart that allows students to be exempt based on their SAT scores, their ACT scores, or whether they are participating in transfer credits through the community college. At the bottom of that chart, you see AP placement scores, International Baccalaureate, which we do not have in our system, and then the Cambridge International Examination. I call your attention to the bottom of this document because it says students are eligible for a CCP college transfer pathway are exempt from CCRG courses. So students that are taking CCP classes in the college transfer pathway do not have to abide by this legislation. And then, of course, there's an interstate compact on educational opportunity for military children. Guidelines will apply as appropriate for most beneficial placement. Are there any questions?
So if I do not have a 2.799, but I do not plan to go to college, I still have to take this the class for the senior year?
If,
Under 2.8, not planning on going to college.
if you opt out of it, we can't force you to do this. If you opt out of it, it's an opportunity.
Okay.
But remember, if you decide that you're gonna go to the community college after you've been out of school for a year or so, you may have to take some remedial classes before you can actually embark upon your core classes that you need to take.
Okay. When you say opt out, is it the way I opt out is just through one of the exemption criteria?
You can opt out through one of the exemption criteria. If your parent chooses for you not to participate, then you don't participate.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, tell me, Fred, I think what Fred's saying, what I kind of saw stuck out to me that they're required.
Yeah, it says required, that's why I mean,
It says required.
I just wonder how the legislation.
It does give a list of options.
Yeah, the beginning of the letter is opportunity, then it goes to required.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, that's what, it sounds good. I'm not saying anything sounds negative, but
Yeah.
I'd like to look into it as far as it's required, because it may be negative towards a kid. They may have a situation where they don't want to do it.
Well, to give you a little bit of background, here's where all this started. Started about 6 years ago with concern from the community college. Kathy and I talked about this. I went to a meeting, it was all the superintendents and all the community college presidents were in the same room, and it was over at RCC, and I really didn't know what I was going to begin with. I didn't know the temperature in the room, let me say that. And it was, Bob Shackle was with me, and never felt that, but there was a big concern of you guys are sending us kids that aren't ready. That's just to be very transparent. You guys are sending us kids that aren't ready, and you're gonna have to do something. And the way that meeting ended was, this is much better than where that meeting ended, because I walked out of there thinking, we're gonna have to give every high school 2 additional teaching positions, because back in 2015, 16, the plan was, you're gonna teach the kids that meet the criteria. Now, in those days, Kathy, it took us a long time to get to the GPA range that they couldn't tell you the GPA range, they couldn't tell you what the SAT or ACT cup was gonna be. But in those days, we were told, we'll give you the curriculum, it'll come from the community colleges, and you'll teach it with your teaching positions. And at that time, it was standalone sections. Well, anybody's ever been a high school principal like Kathy and I are thinking, I'm thinking, well, okay, we better have enough to fill the section, or now our rest of our schedule is going to be. And the only way I could really think to do it then, if that held, was we'd have to find a way to give every high school an additional position or plus. Now what's transpired is Kathy has a plan where these modules are worked inside the English 4 class or a child, a senior's math class, whatever he or she's taking, which keeps us from having to do what originally the game plan was. And that game plan wasn't ours. That game plan was what we were being told that day. And, you know, Bob Shacker's been a tremendous partner of ours. And I just remember some of what was going on in that room that day. And I didn't know what I was going to. I didn't know the gravity of this thing. And so when Kathy and I say it's been kicked down the road every year, well, much to our delight, it's been kicked down the road, because anytime it would have been required to, you know, we got legislators were moving it. The format it was in for all these previous years was not, it was essentially an unfunded mandate. It was going to be at our expense. It's still a little bit that way. Kathy reminded me of that today. It's still a little bit that way. But at least we have the online modules that students can work while they're also doing that English 4 class. And Kathy, I could be in one area, well, no, I can't be in math. Well, my GPA could make me lined up for both, but then I could be exempt from one area because of my, like for instance, if I have SAT of 530, that exempts me from taking the math CCRG. Or if I turn around and have an SAT combined of 480 in the reading and English, I'm exempt from, and it's not really taking the standalone course, which is what it was 6 years ago. It's the modules inside a course. So
it's being incorporated inside the current classes that they should be taking.
yes.
But and I understand for one student who, whatever, they didn't have a grade, they obviously tested well enough for the college placement and stuff like that with the ACT and SATs. But I was more kind of curious for the kid who's a 2.5 student who says, I'm not going to college, not going to community college. I was curious as to what, I mean, maybe this is not Randolph County, I'm just more curious what the legislation was. Are they still required to take something in that class they have to participate in the CCRG?
I think the other piece about it is whether you are required and don't pass, there's what, tiered assessments in there, right, Kathy? So for each module, if you don't do well enough, it doesn't matter whether you do it or not, you're not going to get, you're going to be, what they're trying to do is prevent children from having to be in a remediation program to start off if they go to the community college. That's the ultimate goal. So they can start off with credits.
I think it's just required, when it says required, but, you know, it sounds good, they need it. They need it.
It's a great opportunity, and that's the way we have presented it to the staff and to students, that it is an opportunity, not that it's a requirement. It was required that the state community college system and DPI come up with a plan. That was required.
Well, it's amazing.
Now, whether you choose to spend your money to pay for remedial courses at the community college level is up to you. When you have this opportunity to not do that, you're not going to be penalized in an English 4 class, and you're not going to be penalized in a math 4 class if you don't do it. We've just given you the opportunity to get this behind you so that you don't have to take remedial classes.
I mean, it's a good thing, because I've talked to some parents over the last few years, you know, kids go to college, Then when they go to college, man, they're behind from the get-go. Because I've had someone tell me, say, hey, you know, they tell us to do this and do that, and we didn't get that. You always hear they didn't get that in high school. But the remediation part, like you said, is incorporated into the class and not put more on, you know, the faculty or anything like that. I mean, it's a great idea. But I see where Fred comes from, because it says, you know, opportunity, then it goes and says required, and that's where it was contradicting itself. And that's what I believe Fred was getting at, is required for all students. And
So we will give every student who meets the eligibility requirement between a 2.2 and a 2.79 the opportunity to participate via English 4 or Math 4. Now, whether they do actually do the work in the modules is totally up to them. Okay, that's totally up to them, but we're going to monitor that. We're going to help them if they need help. Remember, this is North Carolina legislation, so Mr. Burgess, if I decide I'm going to a community college in South Carolina or Tennessee or wherever, this doesn't even apply. And a lot of our students will go other places and go to community college to do different things. So it is our first shot at CCRG. I am excited about the fact that we have teachers who have embraced it as an opportunity to learn what the modules are about and help their students work through it, so that at the end of the semester we will have some data to look at, and we'll have some experiences to talk about so that we can make plans for the fall.
And Kathy, Kathy has kind of zeroed in on who's going to do it at each school. And there's been a lot of conversation there about who's going to handle this for each school. And so I look forward to that, because a lot of times when you get the buy-in with the initiative, it really helps it. I wanted to say one other thing, Kathy, you said in leadership today, when we're talking about an opportunity for kids, if a child has a GPA below 2.2, he or she could engage in this. I mean, it's not preventing them, it's the option. And there again, that can help them in their development as well. And I don't know where that goes. You know, Kathy, I don't think we know. If I have a 2.0 GPA and I go into my senior year and I engage in these modules, and I pass these modules, and then I try to go to a community college, we don't know what the community college does with that. At that point, they take that and run with it, with their assessment and their place of these children. But and I don't doubt, I hope it's not, you know, for any community college person out there, I'm not being critical. I'll just tell you, you know, I remember being with Bob at that meeting, and you know, it gets frustrated when I get they were frustrated and there was a decision that something needed to be done. I didn't like the first version of it, you know, because the first version I heard loud and clear as a former high school principal that I was getting ready to have to create some sections in my master schedule, and I was going to have a standalone course, and I didn't like the way that felt. So this is the best it's been since this thing surfaced. I want to say it might have been my second year, maybe in the spring of 15. It's been a while back, and each year it's been delayed because no one could get their hands wrapped around what it was. So I think we're in the best spot we've been in so far. So we'll have to the board members' questions, we'll have to, we're required to have it in place, and I'm sure there'll be some reporting out eventually about how many kids engaged that were supposed to engage. But, you know, anything like this, you know, maybe there's a child out there that's just making the 2.5 and says, I don't want to do all that. Maybe I better get going, you know, and maybe they can, or maybe they may need this skill development.
Well, it's not like it hurts, my understanding that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I mean, I don't care if you're going to college or not, it's not like I mean, you know, the first word of that thing was career, not college, right?
Yeah.
I think, so.
And you never know when a child thinks they're going to go straight to work, and they work a while, next thing you know, they're moving along in wherever they're working, and the organization says, we want you to go back and do this, go back and get this certification or whatever, well, it will be a good thing for them to have this completed and in their back pocket. Kathy, will they give them are they gonna give them some kind of certificate, do you know?
I don't know that they will give any sort of certificate at the end, Dr. Gandy. I think that's yet to be determined what's gonna happen. It's very new, in its current form. One of the things, Mr. Burgess, that I do know is that there are a couple of school systems in the P-TECH region that are piloting an opt-out form, and we are watching that very closely. I don't know the legality of it, but certainly the more information that we get about how that's being used and talk with our attorneys about it, I will update you when I know more. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Lynette. You say Lynette's coming in?
She is, she's right here.
Okay.
College universities feel we're not getting students that are ready now, just waiting for this.
Hey, Lynette, board members, Lynette is going to give you an update. We are right on the heels of, or on the, right around the corner from kindergarten registration. And Lynette, thank you for what you've done to get us this point. You'll see there's a lot of different pieces to this. So go ahead, Lynette, and share, give us an update of what we're going to be doing for kindergarten registration.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Kindergarten registration for the 2021-2022 school year will begin on March 1st this year. And this year, we are not going to have a registration night or a kickoff event. Instead, parents are going to be asked to contact the school that their child will attend in the fall and schedule an appointment to come in and complete the paperwork. In preparation for kindergarten registration, I'd like to share the timeline that we've put out this year. By February 19th, which is coming up very soon, Tim Moody will send a kindergarten registration press release to all local media, and he's going to post the announcement on our district website and social media. Now, whether or not the local media outlets choose to publish the registration information will be entirely up to them. He's also going to use PeachJar to send an electronic flyer to every elementary parent, and then he's going to send a second flyer on March 5th just to keep it out there in front of everyone to hopefully highlight the importance of doing this as early as possible.
Lynette, speak into the mic so it'll pick up over there. I'm sorry, I should have.
Is that better?
Yes.
Also by February 19th, every elementary school will post the kindergarten registration announcement that has already been provided to them on their school website, and they're going to post the kindergarten registration flyers in prominent areas of the building so that they can be seen by people who walk up to the doors. And they're encouraged to use their school social media also to publicize the announcement. In addition, during the months of February and March, schools will announce the kindergarten registration event in their school newsletter and also through school messenger telephone messages. And by March 1st, every elementary school will announce the kindergarten registration on their school sign. And I would just like to acknowledge and say thank you to Tim Moody for all that he does every year to help us publicize this event and get the word out to our school communities.
So, Lynette, one of the things that I was asked last week is, obviously with our COVID restrictions, I think we all know, and you know better than any of us probably, that the need to get to our kindergarten, rising kindergarten students as soon as possible. Board members, they will do the same precautions that we've used up till now this year when children come in to register for school, because we just can't do so much of that remotely when there's certain things that parents have to do. We did not have a kindergarten registration night last year either, and did we have one?
We actually did. It was on Tuesday, March 10th, and then March 13th, Friday was our last day.
That was the question today. I couldn't remember if we did or not, but I thought we had a little bit more time prior to the COVID shutdown. So this will be our first round without having one. One of the other things that Lynette and staff have done for several years now is they really pushed this theme of once we kick off, even with the big event that used to be held, that's not the end of kindergarten registration. The doors are open from there till, on into the school year. So I think that's really helped us, but we do need to get out and get these kindergartners because if we think that we're struggling now to have connections with the children who are remote, it's probably compounded much more by us not being in school. So, Lynette, thank you for that. I was trying to think today and was asking leadership, I just couldn't remember, but I couldn't quite see how we didn't have it last year. We had half of the month of March, so.
I have a question.
Yes.
How about the access to the health department? Don't they need vaccines or certain vaccines done before kindergarten?
Well, they do, but we have, what's the deadline for that? There's a deadline into the year too.
The first 30 days of school.
30 days. So we'll have to start, we'll have to ramp that up with Ms. Hayes. Because, there's some things that are gonna, and Mr. Cutler, we started this year, hopefully something will change some in the summer, but we started this year in the middle of this COVID crisis and didn't hear a lot of our nurses stay on top of that so much, but I think we worked through a good amount of that, but that will be something we'll have to make sure they're prepared for, and get that back on their radar, because like a lot of things, a lot of people's attention have gone to COVID, and so Lynette, we need to have a conversation with Susan, just make sure we.
A good thing, they come in by appointments, but if you could stress maybe where they come in on the Wednesdays when everybody's not there.
Oh, they'll be making an appointment, yes, they'll be pushing it.
They call me.
Yeah, I would definitely push this because it doesn't say that, but
Yeah.
that would be smart, and then you wouldn't come into contact with other kids or near as many people.
Anything else from Lynette? Thank you, Lynette.
Find one or two more ways to contact.
And still, if they're coming in, that's the sad thing.
There's, he's got like 10
Well,
different
wait
ways
till
to contact,
first
10
week of
going
school,
notify,
they
and
still show up.
it's like, no one ever told me.
Yeah.
Well,
They're still waiting for
It's-
first week of school and won't be with their.
it's funny, when I was a middle school principal in Burlington, we get school started, everything to be set, and then the week after Labor Day, it was like the first week of school again. And people would get upset sometimes, like, well, and I'd say, well, today was day one of school, we're having school. And I would put people in line and chairs one at a time. And then I got ready again on Labor Day weekend, I get ready and I put the chairs back out on Friday, because I knew, and some people told me, we're not coming for Labor Day. I did, Mr. Burns, saying, plenty of people told me, I don't care when you start, those were days for starting early. I'm not coming for Labor Day. So our numbers would go up. All right, Kathy is going to, she has Jennifer Smith with her. Ms. Smith is, as you guys know, is our interim middle school director and a long time experience with curriculum. So she and Kathy and Tammy Abernathy have been working a lot. Tammy, I didn't see you. I thought I saw Sheena over there. I'm sorry. Tammy and Jennifer have been working very closely in the last few months with Water Ridge. As we know, and we know that, I'm not going to hide from this, because we know one of our biggest challenges is what's different when you're in the public service school, or the leadership and communication school, or the technology design school. What makes me feel different? And we know there's much work to do there, and that is what they've been focusing on. A lot of their efforts have been focused there. But Kathy, I'll turn it over to you and let you guys run with it.
I'm back and I brought friends with me this time because I do believe in honoring the work that other folks do to help make things better. And Tammy and Jennifer have worked night and day on the UWARI project, so I thought it only fitting that they be a part of this conversation. As you can see from your memo, what we did was develop a chart showing you where we started in 2016 with enrollment and where we are now. As I look at that chart, I see that, of course, the projected enrollment for 2020 is larger than what the actual enrollment is for 2021. But what I would say is that enrollment is down across the district. And I'm sure that that accounts for some of this drop in numbers. When you look at the 8th grade projection, and what it actually ended up being, that's down just a bit. The 9th grade numbers are down just a bit. So you have all of that information there for you. Are there any questions about the enrollment and what those numbers are currently?
Kathy, one thing I want to say, you're right on it with back when I was comparing numbers in January 2020, January 2021, we're up to 100, at that time, you know, and numbers are where they are when you pull them. But at that point, we were up from 169 high schoolers to 195 high schoolers 1 year to the next. The hole I saw was we went from 320 middle schoolers in January 2020 to 293 in 2021. So that's why when I look at that overall number, because I was a little bit perplexed, when I looked at the numbers in January, I have 489 from January 2020 total, and 488 in 2021. So something's going on there with the, and you know, you're talking about 27 fewer middle schools on that given date that I pulled.
But you can look at that graph and see that we're losing half of our 8th graders to Southwest or somewhere else.
That's very obvious, Mr. Bowles. Exactly. From 8th to 9th grade, there's a huge drop between the numbers of students that entered 8th grade and the number of students that enter 9th grade.
And Mr. Bowles, we're about, I don't know what that, when I was looking at the charts, when I pulled numbers, this was the smallest 9th grade we had. But we also, if I'm not mistaken, missed some, did we get all our recruitment nights in last spring? I'm not sure how, if I remember right, we missed a couple, but you know, it was about 10 off, so that really compounded it as well. Because we've been averaging, you know, between 60 and 55 9th graders a year, and not a lot of attrition, not a lot. That junior class last year had 53 by mid-year, and it was not a lot of attrition.
Yeah, I know every year when I'm over there talking to them, they shoot for 60 or 70. That's what they shoot for.
And Kathy, I'm gonna let you start talking in a minute, but I just want to say something. I just want to say something else. We're at a crossroads with this project, because when we started down this path in May of 17, the last time I saw attendance at UWARI Middle School 6A, it was 339 students. Okay, I worried with the principal that if it ever went under 300, it may get small real quick. And what to operate a middle school with that few of kids takes a lot of staffing that the school doesn't qualify for to make these specials or the electives go. So one of the things that has muddied the water at some point, and it's just fitting that here we are, the numbers kept going up. So there was a sign of success. But now that the numbers did not go up this year, I think that may have clouded a little bit of what are we doing with the internal contents of the school? What are we doing with the schools of study? We've had this discussion, but it's time. There's no more discussion about what we're doing. We've got to get moving on that. And so that's where we've got a lot of room for improvement, and that's where Tammy and Jennifer and Kathy have been involved. So I'll be quiet now, but
You did have the deck stacked against you with no school from what, March through,
yeah.
and then 2
But-
days a week is still tough.
But anybody watching, and to you guys as board members, one of the big things that started all this was we have a beautiful school that opened in 2002, and it's not being used. I remember really clearly in 16, 17, walking down the halls with the principal, and there were sections of rooms not being used. And I remember lockers were being used on one end of the hall, so the principal did use a room down there because they wanted a teacher in that area, so the class changes occurred. So the numbers are important, but we're right about 500 students, and we were getting ready to hit 300 a couple of years ago. So using the building, that piece has increased. Now, are there some other pieces that can get better that can lead to more use of the building? Absolutely. And lead to more attract more kids, absolutely. So I'll stop at that point, Kathy, and let you guys talk about what y'all been working on and assessing and some things.
One thing that's not in this document that I do want to share with you, because I think it's an accomplishment for you, Ari.
There are 23 CCP students at URI. Means that there's 15 seniors that are taking one or more CCP classes through RCC. And there are 8 juniors who are taking one or more classes. So that's an accomplishment for them, for that school that is not in your document.
And Kathy, I said I wouldn't want to say anything else, but I will tell you, when the kids got to, I remember standing in the lobby of URI when that first group got to be sophomores. And I knew some of those children, and they came through the lobby one day, and they were talking about, next year we get to start taking the CCP classes, because they were getting ready to be at the junior level. So I think that was a big interest for those children.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the opportunities this year for URI. The bell schedule was adjusted so that the start time and the end time was changed. Middle school and high school core content faculty became independent of one another. And what that means is that prior to this year, a 6th grade teacher, well, a language arts teacher might teach 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. We've been able to pull that content, those teachers apart. 6th grade teachers teach 6th graders, 7th grade teachers teach 7th graders, and so on. Enrichment and remediation for all students was implemented. 3 additional teaching positions and 1 distance learning facilitator position was added. Minecraft coding in middle school, computer science principles 1, drone technology 2 is in the planning stages. Mobilize Your Future Career Truck Fair was originally scheduled for April 2020. Career Exploration Digital Notebook, 6th and 7th grade. Graduation for the first class is in the planning stages and ongoing, and all of the trappings of rings and caps and gowns and all of those things are in the works. Creation of a makerspace room with green screen and other tools for instruction and engagement have been done. For next year, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the PowerPoint presentation, the integration of the 3 schools into the fabric of the daily operation of the school. That's our next step. Continue to strengthen core instruction through the use of professional learning communities, common formative assessments, and the integration of the 3 schools. Effectively use data to drive decisions and calibrate the impact of the 3 schools. There should be a strategic focus on marketing the 3 schools. Share opportunities for students of all 3 schools to experience field trips and guest speakers. Full implementation and use of a new greenhouse and an outdoor classroom facility. And I'm happy to report today that the outdoor classroom facility was purchased. Full full implementation of the Drone 2 technology program. And Tammy, if you'll start the presentation, and it just walks you through what the beginning of the expansion of URA Middle School to URA 612 looked like, and what the vision for the redesign was, to grow URA. And the three schools were to be the School of Public Service, the School of Technology and Design, and the School of Leadership and Communication. The maximum enrollment would be 75 students per grade. Anticipated enrollment fully expanded from 600 to 630 for the 2021 school year. And we are not there yet. We have a ways to go to get to that number.
And
But we
Kathy,
have come a long way from where we started.
and Kathy and board members, you may, Mr. Bowles, I think we've talked about it some. We really can't go much farther than 630 because of the land and the water. We surely will cap out at about 650 would be the max probably that we would be able to capacity on that campus with the system there.
Question, where are the students coming from?
The majority of them,
Is it
so
just
the majority of them are students who were in 8th grade at URI, wanting to stay there. Not a whole lot outside of that path, but that's what we've got to make sure we're capitalizing on, because that seems to be the biggest trend.
Is it just Tabernacle?
No, Farmer Tabernacle. Farmer Tabernacle. They go, remember, this didn't change the feeder pattern from elementary to middle. So Farmer and Tabernacle have always fed into Warren, Seagrove and Southmont feed into Southwest Middle. So when we started this, Mr. Cutler, we did not change the elementary feeder pattern. So the biggest piece is, and I'm going to look for my numbers for this year, not very far off. Yeah, this year, it looks like like 51 10th graders, 48 of them went to URI. You're looking at, looks like 11th, 12th graders, it was 39 out of 51 went there, and 42, there were 42 ninth graders this year last time I looked, and 37 of them went to URI. So that's been the biggest recruiting draw. So as Mr. Cook said, we might have lost a little ground in the spring, but we have to pick that up.
But you know, when you look at that, I'm not sure, there's three things: school, public service, school of technology design.
Are we offering enough?
I mean, I know you can't
Can't offer everything.
all the numbers, but it just, none of that really, does that really jump out at the kids down there?
Computer science is a big thing.
I mean, some of it is one of them, I mean, but no, does all of them really jump out?
I mean, I know the computer science, I was looking at, I'll tell you, we were talking about this little discussion, Ms. Whitehall, I know y'all doing a great job. And I'm glad we got it, but just last week, it seems like it's still a big secret. If people are not right there in that area, they still don't know. I'm not saying that's at fault.
That's a terrible place for us.
You have to tell people. A guy was going to apply the other day for a teaching job there, and he said, tell me about it. He had no idea. He was right in Randolph County, being a teacher. He said, tell me about it. It's like there's a secret. And I don't know, and maybe we do. We have all those items listed on our website. People can click on it and see. And maybe it needs to be jumped out. I hadn't actually, looked at to see, clicked on those items, but I don't know the marketing. I know we're still trying to market, which I know we're in a pandemic, but that's the only thing I
I
always
think
say.
the biggest deal with draws is like the comfort. We were there in middle school, and it's a comfort.
I mean, you talk about marketing, your biggest marketing will be the students that go there now.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, that's your biggest marketing. I mean, I'm not, I'm glad the effort's being put there. Personally, I think the effort's not been there in the last year or so. But I'm glad to see the effort's being applied now. 'Cause I hear more from it than anyone sitting in this room, probably outside of Dr. Gaines. One of the greatest things that was done was the independent from middle school to high school core. I mean, you know, I deal with 50 of those kids every week. I know a lot of them personally. And they loved that part because they felt like when they went to high school, they were still being taught like middle schoolers. And they loved that. Do they think, I know there's some kids who looked at this and who was going there, you know, they said this stuff was going to happen. I know several kids in the public safety thing, they didn't feel like it was there, so they left to go to Southwest where they had more opportunity to do more stuff. And which is, we know that's going to happen because you got such a bigger school, you got more faculty, you got more programs. And you're going to lose kids to that. We know that, and it's nothing. You can try your best to keep them there, but we know that's going to happen. But in my opinion, we just got to make what we're doing better, where our kids who's doing our marketing will market to the younger students. Because I'll be honest with you, there's some kids who go there, the only reason they go in there is because their parents are making them go there. And there's some kids who go there who love to be there. So we just got to get our ducks in a row and do what we promised we was going to do for the last 4 years.
I'll tell you what bothered me, Tracy. I think one of the things, and I'm sure you probably felt this way too, this is probably the first time since we've had URA Ridge that I honestly, here's what I felt. I felt like, it's just the truth, 2 years ago or 3 when all of this started, we talked it up, all the hype and all, and it was a big deal. And then you know what? We get it open, we sell it sort of, and then, you know, we forget about it. We're moving on. We're not, but I felt like some people was moving on to the next big thing. That's what, well, I'm going to move on now. We're going to work on the metals at Eastern Randolph, or where we're going. And they were always looking, I'm talking leadership, not you, but I'm talking people that were heading that up. I felt like they were looking at the next big thing, and they forgot you are. So I'm glad to see, kind of, I feel like, wow, we finally we're looking at it again, you know? We're putting forth an effort, because I think it was forgotten a little bit.
I mean, we've made, the 8 years I've been here, we have made, especially under Dr. Gaines, great progress and, you know, doing programs and making them work. And, you know, making them work, saving money for the citizens of Randolph County and all. And I hate to say this, but this has been our black eye, if you want to say. I mean, we have, you know, we all had great intentions, and this is one we got to put a little bit of raw meat on and get the soreness out of it and get it back to what we wanted to be.
Well, and the other thing, where we are with this is something that is, and Jennifer and Tammy and Kathy know this better than I, but this is a culture change that has to be created. The schools of study, when you see later the clusters and the CTE, they are going to fit children's needs, but the culture, when you start talking about schools of study, it involves a culture you develop. It involves, I've always wondered, you know, I never worked in the private school sector, but I've always wondered, you know, if I was in charge of a private school, would I be told I need to make sure you teach the literary concepts, but you use this material to teach the literary concepts? I think you would be. So here we are now. We're kind of in a specialized situation here. So if I'm teaching someone about metaphors and similes, can I teach it using a article or using a selection that focuses on public service? If I need a child to write an argumentative paper, can I get a child to write an argumentative paper using, you know, the good and bad of this public service career and this one, or this technology career, this leadership career, or maybe not the good and bad, but why I like this one more than that one. And those are those little things that there's not it takes time. Kathy, what I heard about you, what I heard about your school that I know you deeply love, which is the early college. I've heard it more times than I can count, that where the early college is now is not where it started. That culture kept evolving. And that's where I think we are again with this. And have we lost some time? Yes, we have. But Mr. Boyles will tell you, the kids are asking, what makes a difference for me to be in public service? What's different?
Nothing.
And it's gonna be, yeah, and we got to make that difference.
I mean, last year, you know, when they were talking, I'm a firefighter, so I'm gonna lean that way. But, you know, last year we were talking about doing firefighter stuff up at Random. Remember that? You don't know how many people that hurt at UR. You don't know how many kids that hurt. You don't know how many kids that they decided to go to Southwest after they heard that. Because, I mean, you know.
So I thought that was gonna be like talked about or offered at every high school that wasn't offered there, is that right?
I mean, that's a problem. I mean, you know, I've talked to some of these people who teach it in their schools at Skills USA. That's a big problem. It takes a lot to get that going. Because you gotta have, you know, you gotta work relationship with your community colleges and the instructors from there, your fire departments and all that. It's a big undertaking. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying, hey, you snap your finger and it's done. But I ain't gonna call no names, but when we were sitting here last year and that was brought out, and I mentioned it, you know, it was like, kind of blowed off. You gotta think, yes, Randolph County's rural, but we got almost 900 firemen in Randolph County. And you don't think that's a big group of people, it's a big group of people.
Well, Mr. Boyd, you and I both know what an education it is when they go to the budget season and they talk about numbers of calls and volunteer firemen.
Right.
I mean, that's been a big education for me at the commissioner meetings, because that's a whole area I never really thought about until I see the chiefs go up there and talk about their fire tax rate. So Kathy, I just wanted to preface that. I'm gonna be quiet now, because I want to make, I told you I was gonna be quiet several times, but I want them to be able to share some things that they're working at and see if we can shed some light on where things are going.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Davey, thank you, Ms. Waddell. First, I'd just like to say that Ms. Abernathy and I are honored to be a part of this exciting work at UR Ridge. We've had some great conversations with the administration and the staff and our team here, and we're very excited about this. So one of the first things that we've done is we've revisited the key components of the redesign itself, and 3 thematically based schools, one-to-one technology initiative, unique scheduling, creative use of existing space to include non-traditional furnishings, additional technology in designated areas of the school, core classroom instruction through the lens of respective career clusters, blended learning, online courses, community engagement experiences, personalized education approach, and extracurricular involvement based upon student interest before or after school enrichment opportunities, field trips, and guest speakers. What we've also done is we've gone back and we've looked deeper at the redesign of the 3 schools in January 2017. And we have engaged in several conversations with the administration and the leadership team at UR about this, because we think we would be remiss if we didn't go back and really take this close look at the initial thinking behind the schools. And so when you really look at the UR Middle School redesign from 2017, you see not only just the 3 schools, which appear to be, you know, they're broad, and a question I think was asked a few minutes ago, you know, are they comprehensive? Is it covering enough? And when you start to look at those sample career areas and career clusters, you can see these 3 schools, afford students many opportunities to grow in many different areas and explore. But the one piece we talked a lot about recently, and we revisited in our minds, is that community engagement piece. Because as Dr. Gainey has mentioned, and I think you've referenced several times, this is very much about a culture, and the culture piece is critical here. And so the school is part of the community, and we want the community to be a part of the school. So when we look at community engagement, you can see some of the examples there of community businesses and career focuses and so forth. But what we are really talking with them about is coming from the curriculum and instruction angle of the community. And that is, how will the units that the teachers plan to be reflective of the 3 respective schools, how will they embrace and capitalize on the community engagement piece? For example, if you're doing something like a project-based learning type experience with students, and if it's around building a bridge, then you have architects, you have engineers, people who can come in, who can mentor students, who can come in and serve as people who help to assess in culminating projects at the end of the experience for the students. So we're really encouraging them, and we're thinking about as well, that critical component of community engagement, because that was a big piece of the initial vision for URI Ridge 612. So we're really excited, Tammy and I both, and we're very honored to be a part of this, and we're looking forward to working very closely with the teachers and the staff on the curriculum and instruction piece. We can just hear and we can see through our Zoom meetings a lot of excitement in their faces when we talk to them, and we see some very positive, strong indications that some really beneficial conversations are taking place, and teachers are really starting to get excited about this and are ready to dig in deeper, I think, to what these 3 schools really represent. And then the key piece is, what's core instruction going to look like to reflect, the 3 schools.
This next slide talks about additional resources, and I know that everyone in this room is aware of the resources that have been put into URI 612, the teaching position, the CTE, the buses, the technology, the coaching, the outside consultants, the math pilot programs, now the greenhouse that we are working towards being able to put at URI, outdoor classroom, and the drone program. Those are all things that you guys are aware of already. The progress to this to date has to do with the first graduating class, the teaching positions, the distance learning advisor for iLearn, the bell schedule, the separation of the faculty, the rotation of the middle school core classes, focus on academic deficits, identified using NC check-in data that we're using, MTSS interventions during enrichment and remediation, and of course the creative scheduling with 2 high school teachers certified to teach core and elective classes. We've added 2 courses this year, journalism and turning points, which is a social studies class that was added. The creation of a school newspaper called the Ridge Times, career exploration notebooks, the Minecraft coding course, the computer science principles, and the Drone 1/Drone 2, and we're waiting on the certification to be able to do that Drone 2 class. The truck fair and the makerspace. Ms. Abernathy is going to come and talk with you about next steps and where we're headed. We've done a lot of, we've taken a deep dive into what is going on at URI and had conversations with the staff about what they would like to see happen, because as many of you know, that staff has changed a lot since this, the redesign was implemented. So first and foremost, we need to get that staff on board, we need to hear their ideas, and we've done that, and we're ready for next steps, Ms. Abernathy.
Kathy, would it be accurate to say, when you go through that list, and you look at what's happened there, a lot of what's happened has been concrete. And now, the difficult part that has to be done is the non-concrete. You know, it's one thing to change signage. It's one thing to have your first graduating class. It's one thing to have high school courses, which you never had on that campus. I remember about 4 years ago, principal came to me and said, I've got to be at a point to the high school courses in the master schedule. And at that point, I allotted additional positions than what they qualified for, student enrollment wise, because when he described, you know, I can't tell parents we're going to have high school courses unless they're there. Now, they can be in the master schedule and they may not be quite as full as they will be one day, and it made sense, and we did that, we grew to those numbers. But I just think that now we have to get away from the concrete focus of the school, because even the focus on the concrete is now beginning to see numbers slip backwards. And the only way to keep the numbers from slipping backwards, Mr. Bowles, is to get from the concrete focus to the affective focus, the stuff that's not so easy. You know, we all want the school to get out of low performance status. We've all wanted that. The way this school gets out of low performance status is to do what we're talking about. That's how this school will get out of low performance status. Grab the kids' interest and run with the concepts. You know, we'll continue to do check-ins and things we do at every school, but that's not the way to get, this school has an opportunity to get out of low performance status a different way, and that's by going after kids' special interests. So I just say that, and I may be totally contradicting Tammy and Jennifer, but that's where I feel we are at this point, is we're beyond the concrete. We got the sign on the wall. We're ready for graduation, but there's a lot that has happened since. So, Tammy.
Thank you. What we've really been talking to the leadership there about is the vision. You know, what is their vision for these 3 different schools? And how do they, the culture there, buy into it? You know, they need a part of working toward these 3 schools. So our focus, of course, is getting that vision. They're working on that now, and with their staff, is getting that concrete to include these 3 schools in their vision. And then, of course, we'll focus on instruction as our next steps. As using these 3 schools as we explore, as we plan instruction, they're working to develop a template for the standards for the teachers to use, but also intertwining the 3 schools with that. So that's something that they're working the instruction, the curriculum, and working on now. We certainly will need to plan some professional development, curriculum development, possibly some project-based units with rubrics on how to put these 3 schools in so that they just become a normal conversation, just a normal routine to talk about these 3 schools when they're instructing the students. And we, not only the teachers, but we want it to become a common language for the students also. We want to bring those 3 schools to life so students can be talking about them as well as faculty. We're going to be working on service projects, that's our next steps, is to plan those and plan effective PLCs. And of course, continue that data-driven conversations. We need to be brainstorming about the extracurricular activities, the guest speakers, the field trips, the future internships and mentors aligned with the 3 schools, and some job shadowing experiences for the students also. Of course, you know, when we need some displays and communications. Maybe creating some logos for the 3 schools, updating our website, so that will certainly talk about the 3 schools and will reflect the vision that they're working on now. And that also included in social media, Facebook and Twitter, those kind of things. So that's the next steps that we have talked about thus far.
Do you know if, I know the first year when they opened that, I went and, I don't know who created, I don't know, Mr. Gross did, but anyway, they had like a PowerPoint, and then, which you would have to do it then, but it's probably a good idea if we still do it, they may. But they had like a parent, had the parents and all over one night, and they showed what we could offer, and they really had it, they pumped you up. I mean, they really did that night, and I'm thinking, I hope they still do that or something, because, you know, you wanna, that's a good way to.
That went to all the feeders. I think there was a parent, I remember that because I went over to Tabernacle one night and saw.
Yeah, it went to
saw that.
Tabernacle, I think, and I know, I went to the one at, when they did it at UR, you know.
You're right.
And it was,
They did do it at Feeders Club. I mean, it was a good showing at Tabernacle and Farmer, and I think they did one at Southwest also, but I don't think they had good
yeah.
feedback.
They should still do it at those others,
Yes.
what you think?
I think that is where COVID interfered a little bit last year, because I think most of that got shut down. Tammy, what I'm hearing you say, when I hear you speak, and Jennifer, I hear y'all talk about this, the way it comes to me is everything, if I'm in public service, everything I do should be oriented back to public service. And if I'm in the leadership communication school, whatever I do academically should orient back or start with that anchor. And that's what we've got to establish much stronger than it is.
I have just a couple of questions, comment or two. Like I said, I know we, like our drone class, we, you know, a problem issue with the certification, but once we get that done, we will be offering drone 1 and 2 at the same time, just like you would do carpentry 1 and 2 at a school or something like that, where the program keep growing, where kids don't have to sit and stalemate to wait for that class to open back up, correct?
That's the plan.
Okay, it's tough getting older, I forgot what I was which I know Uri is not a big high school and nothing, but these kids, they sit and they fill a request out for the classes they want the following year, just like any other high school. You know what I'm saying? They do that. Because you know, I hear a bunch of kids, they get put in classes, which I know happens at all high schools, because, you know, you got so many faculty members and stuff like that. 'Cause I know a couple of kids, they got 2 ag classes, and, you know, they didn't want 2 ag classes, and like that. And I will say, when the charter school started, it offered all these extracurricular activities, you know, special projects, and these outside school stuff. That's what helped them grow to start with. Because I remember kids going to charter school, you know, like, hey, on Thursdays, half a day, we're out doing service projects and not sitting in the classroom. And the service project stuff I really like, and the hands-on, that's how you're gonna make this grow. Having kids sit at a desk all day long, they can go to any school and do that. But that's what makes a charter school grow. Now, the charter schools probably reverted back to more of a traditional school now. 'Cause I've heard that from some of the faculty I know. But that's what helped them grow from the beginning. They seen something different from the get-go. And that's what pulled a lot of them kids there. Now, whether they're doing it now or not, I'm not quite sure. But we got, you know, like Ms. Abernathy and them, you know, y'all were talking, we got to get those projects started and the people willing to do that. And then people will see something different.
I think that's where your community partners are gonna be key to what's happening with the 3 schools, because those are the people who can come into the schools and do some new and unique things with students in classes around those kinds of projects that you're talking about, Mr. Bowles. One of the things that I think is the draw about URI is the personalization. It is a small enough school that you know everybody in that building and everybody knows you. And you can't get that in a larger high school. And I think that is what has kept some of the students that have remained at URI there, because of their level of comfort and that they know somebody is looking out for them, somebody's going to help them get the classes that they need, and is going to ensure that they can be successful. So that they have going for them right now, if they can strengthen these 3 schools and build a culture, not a banner, not a t-shirt, but a culture of what that school is like. If they can talk the schools, if they can walk the schools, if they can do things that represent the schools, then I think we have integrated, we've been successful to integrate the 3 schools into the fabric of that school and that community. And that's going to take some work. Tammy Abernathy is a turnaround master. I wouldn't want anybody else on my team other than her. Jennifer Smith built an AVID program in Asheboro City Schools with just a little bit of money. And I have had a little experience in opening a new school, so I think the 3 of us make a good team. And along with that team, the URI team, I think we're going to get some things moving there.
I mean, I know, you know, hopefully this time next year, we're not even talking about COVID. One thing I would like to do is get this board, whoever's interested to go over there one day where we can see hands-on what's going. And I don't want it to be announced, because I don't like a dog and pony show. I've seen dog and pony shows before. But you know, 2 or 3 of us want to go over there and actually where we can walk in and see what's going on. That way we have a better idea what's going on. You know, I might sit here, because I've been a big advocate for this since it started. I've probably been the person who's criticized this more than anybody, because I want to see it do good. And you know, I want to go over there, and some of the thoughts I have, I want to be proved wrong. I don't mind being proved wrong, but I would like just to see, you know, what's going on. And where I would have a better understanding of it, where, you know, I might see where there needs to be some improvement, or like I say, I might have an idea what's going on and I'm totally wrong, and that would be great. That's what I would like to see. And I think a lot of times that's where you get a better idea when you go in. You know, I can go over there, see Mr. Hill take me around and show me, but, you know, I just would like to see, if I had to spend 5 hours over there one day, and hopefully next year, that would be one of my goals that some of these on this board would do. Hopefully when it's a full school and not 200 kids in it.
Well, I'll tell you something, Tracy, another thing that, when I first went over there, well, actually, when Mr. Hill, he also is going to have to keep the enthusiasm that he had when he went there that night. That's important. Your leadership has to keep it. And I think you have to work all together as a team. And y'all come together and you can really make something special there. You cannot, sometimes when people come in from central office and they have great intentions, we're going to help you get better. You have to open that door and let them help you get better too. I hope that happens down there. I mean, you know, that they all have to work together, and you can make it a special place.
I mean, faculty,
They cannot resist. They have.
nobody can have a closed mind on it. If you have a closed mind
When
on
I first went there, when we first started this, that first night, they were all enthusiastic. I mean, I hope they're still that way. I mean, they have to be on board. It's hard to make it work.
If they're not, I don't care who's over there. I don't care if Dr. Gaines over there himself running that school. They need them.
Everybody's in my COVID right now. We'll have to wait.
But you know, yeah, I mean, they got to be on board.
That's it.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank y'all for the work y'all did in this, and the presentation tonight. I do think it's very important that we are active in Tabernacle and Farmer about this school, feeding into this school, because if you look at it logistically and the student numbers only, those two schools aren't in the best locations, Tabernacle, Farmer, and York. And the elementary schools that feed into it have 2 out of the 3 lowest enrollments as far as students. And that concerns me to be able to sustain this for a long term. That's why we have got to get in these elementary schools and share with them what's available at URI, and to get the administration at those schools along with at URI to be working together to make sure these students and parents are aware of this, once they get to URI.
Yeah, I mean, the area is starting to grow a little bit. Out of Tot Hill, there's several houses going up in there. Overall, Stutz Road, and all there, several houses going up there. We gotta get them kids to be willing to stay in York and not go to Southwest, which is closer for them to go to Southwest. But that might be something, I know they brought the 5th graders over there and everybody did their little spiel on what's going on, because I've been over there and done a spiel with them and helped them out. And that might be something where we need to be taking maybe some of the students to the elementary schools and let them talk to them on their grade. There's a lot of things we can do, we just got to keep at it.
I got a couple questions and maybe an observation too. We want to see how far off I am. First of all, the 3 schools, so you do, am I right assuming I don't enter one of those 3 schools until the 9th grade? Is that correct?
Currently, when the redesign started in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
you chose a school as a 6th grade. Okay?
Okay.
The administration and the team at URA would like to revisit that plan so that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade years are years that they learn about all 3 schools.
Okay.
And you declare at the end of your 8th grade year. So
Okay.
that going into high school, I make my decision, I'm going to be a public service kid for the remainder of my time here. And then that means you'll visit and get involved in things outside of school that have to do with public service. That's what they're talking about
Okay,
right now.
good. And I'm 100% in agreement with you when you said about building the cultures. Banners are good, logos are great, all that kind of stuff. But until you change the culture, and I do not envy anybody's, whether it be Mr. Hill there, the 3 of you, whatever, as far as changing the culture, it's not going to be easy. And but also the problem is, at least I see there are 2 things. First of all, is that you talk about that building, the enthusiasm and all that. Well, the problem is it has to be done all the time, because it's not like, okay, well, we've been, you have new customers coming in every month, every year, so they may not have heard the message, so it is, and that's why I'm very much agree with what Todd was talking in the middle school. So, but when I look at those numbers, what stands out to me, and so tell me if I'm far off here, and a little bit maybe where Todd was saying or getting to, is that it's the 6th grade is what concerns me. When I look at that number and scroll back to it, was it 86? Yeah, we have 86. So, I mean, I know that we're concerned with, okay, how many are going from the 8th grade on to the 9th grade, but, and maybe it's just a down year in the 5th grade last year as far as the Tabernacle and Farmer, but, we got a 15–16% drop in the number right there. Well, that number is going to go all the way through that school. At least that's what we would hope. Now, if statistically, we're going to get down to a graduating class there in the 40s, by the time that group gets there. So it does. The 3 schools in high school are great and changing the culture, great, but did we lose something from 5th grade to 6th grade? I mean, where did the kids go?
And I don't know, because I pulled those numbers back in early January, and when you look at the last 3 groups of farmer 6th graders, the range is 6 from the highest size, which was last year farmer, to 1920 was 48. And I looked at Tabernacle, and the range there was 8 of those 3 groups of 5th graders. Because that was my first thought. When I saw we were 27 off in middle school, I said, well, wait a minute, did we have smaller 5th grades coming? And you, Mr. Cutler, your point, yes, Farmer and Tabernacle are small. We've got, what happened to those 17, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but 17 here, 17 there, and all of a sudden, you're missing 27, and that's...
So you're saying Farmer actually had a bigger 5th grade last year than they've had in the last 3 years?
No, I said the last 3 years, the range. The biggest one was 19, 20, 61. Last year's 56. 18, 19 was 302. I mean, excuse me, it's 53, excuse me. So I just said the range of those 3 years from smallest to highest was only 8, so there wasn't a... And the range from smallest to highest at, excuse me, let me go back, I'm looking at Tabernacle. Farmer, the last 3 years is 5th grade, 52, 48, 54.
54 was last year. So they had more than 5th grade last year than they did the previous 2 years.
Yes. Tabernacle was, in those years, 18, 19 forward, 53, 61, 56.
They lose a lot of the charges.
So,
I don't know. I don't know where those kids are going.
and that's
But that was my
concerning,
first
I think,
thought.
that we have that big a drop off in from 5th to 6th, because
See, my concern was,
especially if we want to build that culture, if there's no one there to build it with, then we're in trouble.
when I saw that, I thought, well, did we have smaller 5th grades? That's why I went and pulled those numbers. I wanted to see if the 5th grade had fallen off. I like the idea, and I saw his nod, I like the idea of the exploration in middle school, those 3 schools of study, because there's not many 6th graders can make that choice in 6th grade and ride it for 6 years. I like that idea. It gets, I really like that one. So I don't know where that goes, but if we vote, I'm gonna vote for that one.
And I guess, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, not her coming real in the room or what, but and to me, like I said, the biggest problem seems to be middle school than high school, just looking at numbers. But I'm just curious for opinions here. And I know we're not going back or anything, but did dropping athletics, did that have anything to do with this, you think?
I don't think it was sitting.
I don't think so. We had very little, remember, we had very little participation.
Okay. All right. I was just saying, just in general, you know, I mean, it's not always that participation in athletics. Sometimes participation is doing other things other than being on the field.
And I will say,
4 or 5, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying just also, if you have kids that say, I want to go to a school that has a basketball team, has a football team, has a baseball team, not, maybe if I'm not playing, I want to be a part of it. I don't know. I'm just, because I know sometimes someone is going to hear that, I want to at least be able to answer the questions all I'm asking them, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've got that
Yeah.
thrown up to me, says y'all kill sports, that's where our kids are going. You didn't have that many kids participating in Southwest to start with.
Yeah, okay. But, yeah, I think, I mean, what Tom said is important is I don't know, I mean, it concerns me we just had that big a drop from 5th grade to 6th grade. And, you know, is there anything, I mean, obviously, is this an anomaly or is this something that really, or is it going to be a problem with the poll? Because if it's a problem before we,
I think the thing with the farmer is that when they built Southmont, I don't know if it was equally divided. I mean, when they built Southmont, opened it up, I think Southmont opened as a bigger school than Farmer.
and to your point about the charters, that's beginning to level off. We now I'm comparing December to December, but 1920, when we pulled those numbers, we had lost 28 more students in the previous year to URI. When we pulled those numbers this year, we had lost only 14 more. So that's beginning to, globally, it's beginning to slow down. It was 34 one year and 36 the next. So overall, with all of the charters combined, but URI by itself, we only lost 14 more kids this year compared to the 28 the year before. Well, if they can just settle down a little bit. You know, we spent 5 years trying to get that projection right, so we knew what to do. And
I would say one more thing, Kathy, just reiterate what I said before. I see your social media, whether you believe it, like it, or don't like it, these kids and parents live on social media. If you got some big project going, it needs to be on Twitter. And when I think about Twitter, I mean, I think about Randall High School. They've always got something on Twitter, and it's exciting. You know, they're always got this baseball player signing here, got this guy doing this, and it's got to be, you got to have somebody. And I see schools, a lot of schools, that they're not very exciting on their social media. They're not, and they're not real. They don't have the right person in charge of it. But you need reality to become perception, or perception to become your reality. You need to put a perception out there that you're great. And people's got to say, I want that, and parents start seeing it, because now it's not just your middle school and high school, it's moms and dads are on Instagram, and CC, Facebook, and I'm assuming you're going to be on Instagram, being their own by Facebook, but Twitter and Instagram's huge. The moms and dads are on there, and if all of a sudden it gets exciting to them on social media, and then that perception becomes reality. And I think you got to keep on, that would be your biggest marketing thing to me, is making it exciting for those kids.
It is, and I mean, I'm all about marketing, but if you add those numbers up from fall of last year to currently, it says, it looks like, I'll give you better math, man, it looks like there's about 40 students different.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying is, if you said, hey, we increased our percentage that stayed there in ninth grade versus the eighth grade, if we increased that by 20%, I think we'd all be happy. Well, if we increase it by 20%, but yet we have 15% less students in or more than that. Yeah, we have about 15% less students. We're not gaining any grant because we've got less students to actually recruit from. They just said the ones that come.
Yeah, they're going to have to build, but you've got to recruit some students for now, for that sixth grade class. It's going to build.
Thank you very much for the feedback that you've given us today. I have made a note, Mr. Burgess, we're going to do some digging into those fifth grade numbers and try to help the team at URI look at a plan for outreach to Farmer and Tabernacle. That needs to be a part of their plan going forward. What are we going to do with those fifth graders, and how do we continue to recruit them down so that we keep those numbers up? Know that we are open to ideas and suggestions, and we'll continue.
I don't have any ideas, I just point out problems.
Well, that helps too.
They only have one first graduating class, so I hope they're able to do something special there because they'll be watching.
I mean, the biggest thing marketing is, like I say, the students has got to market. I mean, these fifth graders coming in, they got to see, sixth graders coming in, they got to see something going on before they get there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Cook, we are out of time. We can do one or two things with the survey data. We can, I have to review the policy with the board attorney. We can add that to an information item tonight, or we can bring that back in March. I'll do it at the pleasure of the board, with the board meeting. March, okay. Sorry, Beth. I know, we just had, but we needed to, I'm glad that this URI conversation went like it did. Everybody good? Everybody good, we bring it back in March? Okay. That's right. So, one last thing, board members, you've got your scheduled events. The Teacher of the Year banquet has been officially moved to the fall. That's what we will start moving forward. We have referenced that several times. Sean Hildreth is working right now with Pinewood and Ashburn City to come up with a final date. So we should get that soon. Andre told me that today in our leadership meeting. So that'll get one of those big events out of May and leave us with retirement banquet and the employee recognition, which y'all know is on the board meeting date. So it should help y'all's schedules too. I know you spend a lot of time with us in May and June, and so I'll have that firmed up as soon as we can get it finalized, okay? Thank you, board members. We'll be back for the board meeting.